Today is the first day of second grade for my male son. Last night after dinner, my wife began to help my son pack his lunch for his first day of school while I got his clothes out. When I returned from the kitchen, they had just finished up, and my wife handed the lunchbox off to my son, who said, "Thank you?" "Mommy," this was the first time my son called her mom, because my wife and I had been married for 7 months, but together for 3 years. My son's biological mom passed away when he was just a few months old, and from that moment on, I never wanted my son to refer to another woman as mom. I discussed this with my wife when I realized that we were getting serious and first introduced her to my son. She said that she understood and would never expect my son to refer to her as mom or anything like that. And for the past few years, my son has only called her by her first name. My wife didn't say anything at the moment. She just smiled at him and said, "You're welcome." However, after my son had gone to bed, my wife was beaming with excitement and telling me how happy she was about it. I didn't want to be an idiot, but I reminded her that I didn't want him calling anyone else mom and asked if she could just remind him to call her by her name or her nickname next time. She was immediately upset and began to say that she would never have forced him to call her mom, but she was also not going to deny him that if that's what he chose to call her. This led us to an hour-long argument about me sleeping on the couch. Just edit. I had told my son all about his biological mom and have shown him pictures of her every day when he was younger, so he knows who his mom is and that she's no longer with us. You are the idiot. Don't control your son's wishes. This might be the only woman he knows in that role in his life. He has a right to call her mom if he wants to. That you don't get to control that or deny him that if that's what he wants. It's his choice, and she's the only mom he's known. Your wife is stepping into the role of his mother. Just allow her that title if your son so chooses to give it. You need to accept that. You need to accept that it doesn't mean his birth mom isn't important, and it doesn't mean he can't have more than one mom in his life. Your wife didn't make your son call her mom. Your son has obviously grown comfortable now identifying her as his mom. I can't believe you're going to deny your son this. Your son is aware of who his biological mom is. I honestly don't see the issue with him being comfortable calling your wife mom. I understand it's difficult to move on from a loss, but you're punishing your wife and son for your inability to move on. So you get to move on and have a new wife, but he can't have a new mommy? You see, OPT, I can appreciate that you want to preserve his bio mother's memory and retain its importance, but he's a little kid. Right now, mom is your wife. Your wife who's present and raising him. So let him do it. She's his mom, but his bio mom will always be a mom. And one day you guys can have a great conversation about her. They can both be a mom. This nearly made me cry because your son is trying to bond with his mother figure, and you deny him that? Why are you taking this from both of them? It seems like it makes them both happy, and I don't understand the issue here. Imagine how rejected that small child, who's known and trusted your wife for half his life, would feel if she reprimanded him for calling her mom. Please get therapy. my older sister. Rosa and I are not close. Rosa and I come from a family with money. Growing up, we lived in a lovely house with staff to do stuff for us. Our parents never encouraged us to be independent and spoiled us beyond compare. I never got a normal childhood, and I got the biggest culture shock when I left for university. I had to unlearn many of the class's thoughts I grew up with. I moved away from my parents, and I rarely spoke to them. My parents tend to baby Rosa. In my opinion, this has caused her to become very entitled. She overreacts when things don't go her way and complains about everything and everyone when they make small mistakes. As a result, I do not speak to her often. A few weeks ago, Rosa called me and told me that my parents had kicked her out of their house for a few weeks. She refused to tell me the details, but I could tell that she was very distraught. She asked me if she could stay with me for 2 weeks because she didn't want to live in a hotel. I was hesitant, but my wife Amy convinced me to let her stay. The first thing I noticed about Rosa is that she's incapable of doing basic tasks. She can't boil water on the stove, can't boil an egg, and can barely fold her clothes. But on the second day of her stay, she left the stove unattended while she went outside. It's so bad that I almost consider her a hazard in the kitchen. Rosa's inability to do anything caused Amy and I to do everything for her. As a result, we have to constantly clean up for her, and she leaves huge messes, and it gets very annoying. Amy felt bad for Rosa and offered to teach her a few things. Rosa declined because, quote, she doesn't need to. But Amy convinced her. Amy tried to teach her how to hold a knife properly, fold a t-shirt, and make a bed. Instead of trying to learn, Rosa would give up and claim that she couldn't do it, and that it would be much better if Amy did it for her since she's much better at those things than her. Amy tried for a few days before she gave up. Amy made croissants. They took 2 days to make, and she made 18 in total. But the next day, Amy and I were out all day and didn't get to eat much. So imagine my surprise when Rosa told us that she had eaten all the remaining croissants, 16. I got a bit mad and I told her that was a bit inconsiderate, but she told me that she thought it was okay because the help could just make more. I got so angry. I told her that she couldn't keep living with us if she acted like an entitled witch the entire time, and I kicked her out. She started pleading with me, but I insisted. Amy thinks I may have overreacted. She called your wife the help, an immediate offense. Not the idiot. Each. Rosa isn't incapable of learning how to do things. She's unwilling to learn them. Until she pulls her head out of her butt, there's no helping her so she can sink on her own. Your wife is a saint to have put up with her and trying to teach her basic skills. Yes, and doing dangerous things like leaving the stove on might be deliberate, make you regret ever asking her to lift a finger, or at a minimum ensuring you don't do it again. Maybe that's too critical, but I wouldn't put it past someone who referred to a sister-in-law or anyone as the help. I'd also be tempted to check the garbage for the 16 croissants. This isn't about croissants. This is about an ongoing lack of respect for the people around her. She needs a wake-up call, and living alone will be good for her. She needs to realize that food doesn't magically get cooked. Laundry fairies don't exist, and animated woodland creatures don't come and clean your home. She won't change unless she's forced to. I, 25, female, have a boyfriend 27 of 2 years. Let's call him Derek. We have a female mutual friend, 27, which we'll call Lila. Now, Lila keeps calling Derek boyfriend, like, hey boyfriend, or what are you doing, boyfriend? Which, of course, makes me very uncomfortable. He confronted her about it, obviously, but she told me it's just a verbal tic she got a while ago. She calls everyone boyfriend, which credit to her. I did hear her call her other friends, work colleagues, and even the bartender boyfriends. Heck, she even calls me girlfriend quite often. But that doesn't mean I'm comfortable with her calling my Derek her boyfriend. So I've told her to tone it down around my boyfriend, which she promised she'll try to do. But this evening, I heard her call Derek boyfriend. Better and worst of all, she didn't even apologize to me until I called her out on it. Finally, I honestly got so fed up with her that I just told her that if she really can't control calling other people boyfriends or girlfriends, she should just seek professional help, which she didn't take lightly. Lila and I broke into a fight over this issue until Derek and our other friends intervened. At home, Derek scolded me about what I said about Lila and told me that I should stop being so jealous and possessive of him over every little thing. But I don't think I'm possessive just because I don't want another woman to call him boyfriend, especially when I had already warned Lila about it beforehand, and she chose to ignore it completely, especially when this weird verbal tic of hers is something. I've never heard of it before, and it makes me wonder if it truly exists, or if she just made it up to get attention. Am I the idiot? Your friend has a verbal tic. She does it to everyone. You've acknowledged that she does, and you still go off on her, even though it's out of her control. But tell her to go and seek professional help, and at the same time doubt it's real, and whether she's making it up for attention. Honestly, it sounds like you're quite insecure and a terrible friend. Your boyfriend is right. You are way out of line. It sounds more like a habit than a tic if it's gender specific, and it seems integrated into her normal conversation rather than something she's saying completely uncontrolled. Or could just be an odd habit that hasn't been previously questioned. PT doesn't have or hasn't provided enough information to determine if the behavior is caused by a diagnosis. Since she does it for everyone and no one else in their friend group is uncomfortable, it sounds like OP is the problem. Derek even said, "Stop being jealous of every little thing." That's very telling to me that Ope has a pattern of this behavior that makes him uncomfortable. She's doing it again here, and he's uncomfortable. Get your act together, girlfriend. Yay up, you even wrote my Derek in your post. As a person, you do not own him. You are being jealous and possessive, just like he said, and you do need to stop. Do you trust your boyfriend so little that you think he'll be called to her side as if she calls him boyfriend? Your friends are right. The problem here is your insecurity. I, 47 male, have a daughter, 18. It's over the years. I've set aside a college fund for her, enough for any decent four-year university. However, she's been pretty indecisive about what she wants to do after high school, and I understand it's a wildly young age to completely know what you want to do for the rest of your life. So when she said she wanted to take some time off for college, I was all for it, hoping she'd take the time to think things over. She came to my wife and me yesterday and said she wants to go to school next semester. I said great and started asking the standard questions, like what she decided to study and where she wanted to go. She had no answer to either of the questions. I told her if she's still unsure of the whats and wheres of her decision, she should maybe think about taking her gen eds at the local community college to save money and not waste her time. It's a no. I will give her money not used in her college fund after she graduates for a down payment on some getting started money, depending on how much is left over. She was resistant to the idea of community college and insisted she wanted to go to a 4-year. I told her that I didn't want her to go to a 4-year just to waste her time. I told her that I was unsure of what I wanted to do when I went to a 4-year and ended up taking classes I didn't need and having to spend by making up classes that I should have been taking years before. And I didn't want her to be in the same situation I was in. I told her that if she wants to go to a 4-year college, that's fine. But if she doesn't have a set goal in mind, then I'm not paying for it. If she decides what field she wants to go into, then I would be happy to do it. If she doesn't know what she wants to do, but still wants to take classes, I'm more than happy to pay for those. But I'm not going to waste my money for her to mess around for a couple of years. She's also welcome to take more time to think about things before going to college, as the money isn't going anywhere, and we're in no hurry to push her out of the nest. She wasn't too thrilled about my conditions and begged me to pay for a 4-year college. I told her I would not do that, but I gave her the other options. I reassured her that I loved her and ended the conversation at that. Pulling my wife agrees with me, but is overall more sympathetic to our daughter. I said she's welcome to take all the time she needs, and I've been more than generous with her. Am I the idiot? The idiot. I'm betting that she suddenly wants to go to school at a 4-year college because of prestige, because all of her friends are posting about buying their gear and moving out and going off to live in the dorms, etc. Really exciting. How much exposure has your daughter had to adults who have jobs and will talk about them? Like, has she seen you and your wife at work? Has she asked Uncle Brad what it's like to run his own business? Anything. Actually, it might be worthwhile to line your daughter up with a counselor who can provide aptitude tests and career counseling. She seems to be floundering in I don't know's lands right now. I'm giving you a hesitant, you are the idiot. I'm 26 now, but I transferred from a local community college to a big University of California school about 6 years ago. experiences of being a transfer to a 4-year school are entirely different from that of a student who has been there all 4 years. Friendships, shared experiences, and familiarity with campus resources. I don't regret transferring, but it was really hard to get in the groove and not feel behind my peers. Even if she does change her major, unless it's completely different, like engineering and art history, those credits will still most likely count for her gen eds. And just as a parent, don't force her to bend to your will just because you control the purse strings. It's the perfect way to get your child to resent you. My male 33 parents are late for everything, like everything. Both my sisters and myself have been disappointed so many times. Graduation ceremonies, birthday parties, and even my father's retirement dinner. It's completely my mother's fault. She's a wonderful mother, and I love her dearly. She just does not understand the concept of punctuality. I've seen her talking to her sister on the phone and reminded her that she needed to be at my baby sister's dance recital. She waved me off and arrived after my sister had danced. We're all used to it. My dad is just done trying to get her on time for anything. My now wife, 28, told me in no uncertain terms that if my mother was late for our wedding, she would do terrible things to me. Of course, she was only half joking, but she was a witness to my mom and dad arriving halfway through my cousin's quinceanera. So here's what I did. It is entirely on me. My wife was not involved. If there is an idiot move, it was completely mine. When we were getting samples for the wedding, I talked to the printer and had one special invitation printed with the time stated as being 1 hour earlier than the actual start time of the ceremony. My mother was beside herself when they left the house and thought they would miss the wedding, since she was a part of it with her and my mother-in-law, lighting the candles we would use to light the unity candle and stuff. When she arrived and noticed other people were also just arriving and parking, she was so relieved that we were starting late that she just went with it. The ceremony went off beautifully, and so did the wedding pictures and the reception. The problem came last Sunday. My parents came over for a big family dinner, and we didn't bother starting the grill until they showed up. She asked why everyone wasn't eating, and we just said we knew it'd be waiting for them since they're always late. She said she wasn't always late and had been on time for my wedding. She hadn't been. They arrived 45 minutes after the time of their invitation. Our successional prempity cousin, John, real name because it's common and he deserves people to know he's an adult, snorted at her statement. A few other people giggled or smiled at this, and she picked up and asked what was so funny. I came clean and told her about the special invitation. She's angry at me for not trusting her and making her look foolish in front of everyone. If my cousin had just controlled himself, she never would have known. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot? Haha, good thinking. The key. If they can't care enough to make an effort to be on time, they get to deal with the consequences of their chronic lateness. If they don't want to be the family joke, then it's on them to make the change to be on time. It was a brilliant idea and worked out perfectly. Doesn't make a list of every time she's been late and give it to her. If she's upset about looking foolish, tell her how upset everyone else is that she doesn't care enough to be on time for their important events. Finally, remind her that if you hadn't lied, she actually would have been late to your wedding and was late according to the time listed. It sounds like your mother has to be the center of attention at other people's expense by making a grand entrance, but doesn't realize that she's missing out on major events or how it makes others feel. As for dinner, I would have just started cooking on time. No one else should have to wait for food just because she's late. But I feel sorry for your dad who has to miss out because she can't be punctual. He should leave on time and let her find her ride to events from now on. Hello, my name is John. I love cats.